2414 is a podcast about finding hope and common ground through casual conversation. Like the friends on the road in the New Testament, in Luke chapter 24, verse 14, we want to walk away with more understanding that leads to more conversation as the journey continues. Thanks for walking with us.
So dumb. Hey, everybody. With that, welcome to 2414. My name is Dan Weber. I get to serve as a pastor here at St. Luke's Lutheran Church in Federal Way, Washington, and co-host here on the podcast. My special guest today is Shane Welter.
Oh, hello. Just a guest.
Today you're a special guest. Not just a guest. You're a special guest.
Not friend of the show.
No, a special guest. Yeah, Shane is, if you're a first-time listener, Shane is traditionally one of the co-hosts to the show. But today he is our special guest as well. He's also the technical support, the producer, the director, the analyst.
I just post it. Analyst.
He pushes buttons.
I just push buttons.
If you are listening or watching to this, welcome. And that is because Shane has done his job in production. So today we're continuing a series on vocation, the idea that we are called to different spheres of influence and care and loving others, some professional, some not professional. But today we're going to be talking with Shane about the vocation, the calling as a worship leader, which is a pretty narrow or niche focus that not all of our listeners are Christian or go to church. So I realize this is a pretty niche topic, but I'm interested in it, and I think Shane will have some good things to say.
It's true. It's also vague too.
A little bit
title.
Vague.
Or like
Director of Worship and Arts is your actual title.
That's the official title. Most people just say, he's the worship leader.
Worship leader. Yeah, we'll get into some of those things. Before we do that, though, here a high and a low, and we're in the Advent or Christmas season here, so you can either share your favorite or perhaps a least favorite Christmas song. You can do both, or you can pick one or the other.
Favorite or least favorite Christmas song?
Yeah, either it could be in the hymnal, could be something you hear in the radio, and you're just like, nope, or yes.
Okay.
Or right. Can't wait to sing it. So, Shane, what's a low and a high? And give me a favorite Christmas or least favorite Christmas song.
All right. Well, lows, I guess we're recording this with November 30th. It's also my sister's birthday. Happy birthday, Tori. But also, for lows, it's November 30th, but Christmas is just looming like none other. There's been a lot of special services recently and other stuff happening and a lot happening, so I'm very, very behind on so much.
And there's extra services coming up.
Coming up, so I am very well behind in planning and everything else, and it's just, I'm feeling it.
Okay.
But I just say that's the general low, because anything else is probably tied to that. However, highs, yes. Got to think. Sorry,
that's all right.
I didn't even process.
It is kind of a surprise question. If
I didn't know it was coming.
Yeah,
jeez. But high. Highs, I would say. Recently, I've been kind of playing with my, kind of Xbox and other stuff with my brother recently, at home, and it's been really fun. And then also maybe it's just a small high. Lauren and I did Black Friday shopping. We bought a bajillion candles.
Okay, for you or for gifts? Because Tori might be listening.
She might be, but this is for ourselves.
Okay, just for you.
And we just bought a ton of them, and it's just so nice having candles at home.
Yeah.
It smells so fragrant and nice, and it's just it's a sense you don't think about until it smacks you in the face. So I really like the candles. It's small, but I love it. So,
that's awesome, Shane.
Yeah.
Christmas music, a song that if it comes on the radio, you're immediately turning the channel, or if you get to sing it, you're like, oh yes. Yeah.
So, I probably have many that I hate. But
it's bold.
I mean, there's a lot of bad Christmas songs.
That's true.
But I'd say not high, but one of my favorite, I think, would have to be the Heat Miser, Snow Miser song.
That's not a
from
real thing.
A Year Without Santa Claus.
That's not a real. I don't know what any of this means.
Really?
No, I've never heard of any of what you just said.
It's definitely not like one of the main.
Never heard of the movie.
Staple.
Never heard of the song.
Okay, it's one of you know like Frost or not Frost.
I do know Frosty.
Like Rudolph the Red-Nosed
I do know
Reindeer,
Rudolph.
like that old animation stop motion.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies, same era.
Really?
Yeah.
A Year Without Santa?
Yeah, A Year Without Santa Claus. And sometime in the movie, I can't remember exactly the plot. It's been a long, long time, but like the God in control of the sun season and the God, they're not called gods, but like just for now,
your
like
pagan deities.
Yeah, the pagan deity of summer and winter are like taking. Oh no, that was it. They needed to change the season.
Okay.
And so they had to convince like the snow miser to push his thing and the heat miser to change his thing and to change their seasons, and then they were in cahoots about that. But while they're visiting both of them, they sing their song. It's like, I'm Mr. Snow Miser, I'm Mr. whatever. Or I know I'm Mr. Heat Miser, I'm Mr. Sun, I'm Mr. Sun Blister, I'm Mr. 101. Like, you've never heard of that?
I've never heard of this.
Really?
This is amazing.
It's one of my like. It's got a slapping trombone. It's a fun song.
I've never even heard anybody talk about this. Is completely new.
I've got weird. I don't even know if I've seen the full movie, but I just think it's an incredible song.
Miser, Snow Miser, something like that. A Year Without Santa Claus.
It's called A Year Without a Santa Claus, and I think it's just called like Snow Miser, Heat Miser song.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. I got homework.
Yeah. I think it really, you'll listen to it, and it's a fun song. And
send me the link if I don't tell you that tomorrow.
Right.
Like, hey, dude, I listened to it.
All right. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
You're enlightened now.
Wow.
So.
This is not where I saw the show going. Then this is awesome.
This is a show all about that.
And that was like your favorite Christmas song.
Like it's just kind of the one, like it's not overplayed. It's obviously not played enough.
Clearly, I've never heard it. I listen to a lot of Christmas music.
And so like if it were overplayed, it probably would not be my favorite song anymore. But it's just that sweet spot of like it's not played enough. And so when I hear it, I'm like, yes.
Okay.
So yeah.
Do you have any dreaded songs that you want to share or not?
I'm really getting sick of Mariah Carey. All I Want for Christmas.
Okay.
It's like October, and then it starts, and then you hear it every day.
Okay.
It's like the most popular song of all time. Like it's so overplayed.
She's getting paid
all the time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah, that might be it.
Okay.
But I don't know. Yeah, I'll throw it over to you now.
Yeah.
Balls in your court.
Low. Like one silly low, a little bit petty is we did not rake up our leaves in time.
So you're just gonna let nature?
Well, I don't know. They're wet now. Like
you can't burn them. You can't.
Yeah,
they're heavier now.
Yeah, and so our deck is covered. And so I tried to use the leaf blower today. I don't know what happened with our leaf blower. It's so weak. It's the battery kind.
Oh, it's not like wall.
No, it's not wall or gas. And so I get about 30 seconds of quality, leaf blowing out of that thing, and then it
just becomes
just done.
A fan.
Yeah, it just cut off. It just doesn't work. And so I got a quarter of my deck blown off this morning with like a full charge of the battery. So that the deck is going to rot and that's decay underneath these leaves. I think maybe not. I'm less worried about the grass because whatever, it's Washington, it'll grow.
Yeah.
So that's a low, is seeing my yard and especially my deck covered in leaves.
Can you not rake it?
I can, but it's like 32 degrees and snowing. I'm not going to go rake leaves in pitch dark 32 degrees and snow. It sounds terrible. I need to actually figure out the price point for my children on this. I had my daughter almost convinced this morning. I said, hey, take a look at these leaves. I'd be willing to pay you to rake them off or to use the snowblower. And she looked at the leaf blower. She looked at him and she's like, okay, I could do that. I'm only doing this part because there's spiders over there. So like for her, it's like, nope, there's spider webs out there. Forget it.
It's not what the contract.
Yeah. So I don't know what the spider price point is to.
Yeah.
Or if I can pay her brothers to do the scary parts.
That's true.
So what's the point in having kids if they're not going to do the grunt labor around? All right. So that's my low, is regretting and very clearly looking back over the last few weeks going, I should do that. You know, like, I should really get out there. Like this is gonna be the last nice day, but there's a football game on. Or like this is gonna be the last nice day, but like, I could really use a nap.
We did have like a month straight of like cloudless days.
We did. We had the longest, sunniest fall on record, and week by week, I looked at going, I know I need to do this, and I didn't. So that regret, like it's annoying now, but the kicking myself for having the thoughts and not acting on them. So kind of regret's maybe too strong of a word, but I knew better, and I knew in the moment I was going to regret it. And I was right. And I totally regret it. So that's my low.
Lower leaves. Okay.
Yeah, wet leaves. High, I am enjoying the snow. It's kind of fun. We've started playing chess very regularly as a family.
As a family, or like you take turns?
We take turns. It's a 2-person game.
It kind of sound like you guys are on sides. You're like, no, move it there.
No, we years ago, Costco had this chess table, like a circular table with 4 stools, probably a decade ago, and we wanted to get it, and it was gone. And Costco does this thing where things show up and then they disappear,
and there's just one of them.
Yeah, and it's part of their scheme, like get you addicted to the store, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't know, 5 years ago, we saw the table. We're like, it's here. We threw it in the cart real quick, and then
threw the table,
like with the big box. We got it in the cart.
Oh, okay.
Like the big flatbed, shopping cart.
Okay.
And so, but even that very day, we had 3 or 4 other people stop us. Like, where'd you get that? We're at the last one. Like, we've been looking for it.
Oh.
And some employees like, you got it. Yeah, like, we never have those. So we got this chess table, which we love.
I had no idea that came from Costco.
Yeah.
I've seen that before. Yeah.
So we bought it. Quick side story here. It didn't fit in the car. We weren't planning on getting it. We took my little sedan. We've got an infant, hypothetically, with us in the car, and then it doesn't fit. And so we had to end up, again, you can imagine a passenger seat lovingly holding a child who's not in a car seat to get them home, because we had to make room for the chess table in the back.
I mean, it's a pretty...
This is, everybody's fine.
It all worked out, so...
Yeah. But as we shuffle furniture sometimes and things get in different places, for the last, several months, this table has lived in the corner where it wasn't accessible, and now we've got our room back, and so it's in the center of like our main kind of living room area. So it just invites people to play. So we play it a lot, and I got beat twice this week.
Oh wow!
Which doesn't usually happen.
By the same person?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was very gracious in victory. I've been far ahead of him for a long time.
Yeah.
But he very graciously said, like, "Oh, Daddy, this didn't feel like really even matches." and it's like, yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
Cool. Good times.
So he said that, and after you win, you're like, better luck next time, buddy.
I'm just dancing him, no. So that's been, but seeing other people play, it's a silly thing, but it's just a very casual spend time together kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right. So that's one of my highs right now.
And now your least or favorite Christmas song?
I've got a few of each.
Oh, wow.
This should be its own episode, but that's not the topic today. I think one of my least favorite that I'll turn it off immediately is it the Beatles or John Lennon, like the Happy Christmas?
Oh, so this is Christmas.
Yeah, and then the chorus, like,
yeah, I'm not a fan of that one
I hate
either.
it. That's the worst.
It's not catchy. It's just.
I'm also, this is maybe a little more controversial, not trying to stir up things. I like Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah, and I don't care for the Christmas version of, that's
so just the normal version.
Like I like the regular song.
Do you like the Leonard?
Oh, his
version?
Actual version? No.
Okay, I was gonna say.
I like his lyrics. No,
okay.
No. Who's the guy who fixed the melody?
I don't know.
Whoever it was, he fixed it.
I just know that Leonard. I laughed out loud the first time I heard the original.
It's not so good.
It's
not so good. And what's his name? Fixed the tune, but still great lyrics.
Yeah.
And it's still catchy. And I know we even sing it here at church sometimes. And
it did, 2 years ago.
It's not a bad thing. It's just.
Well, we did the alternate lyric arrangement of it.
That's not my favorite.
The alternate version of it,
like the Christmas version of Hallelujah.
You like the Christmas or you don't?
I don't care for it. It's okay.
So you just like.
I like the original so much.
You pull up the original during Christmas?
No.
Wait.
We're not communicating very well right now. Here's the thing. I like Leonard Cohen's song Hallelujah.
Yes.
Okay.
Does this have to do with Christmas?
No. I like that song.
Okay.
But because I like that, when Christians just kind of like hijacked the melody and the chorus, and we made a Christmas song out of something that was never supposed to be a Christmas song.
Gotcha.
It feels like a Weird Al song. Like it's a parody. It's a Christian parody of a great song. And that almost feels dishonest. Like he didn't sign off on this.
I guess. Yeah. The more I think about it, yes, but I'm choosing not to think about it.
It reminds me. You know what reminds me of, Shane, is you grew up in a different era than I did.
Maybe, yeah.
I grew up in an era when Christian Booksellers was like a bookstore. I forgot what the actual name. They were brick and mortar stores, like Christian books. Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
And one of their general strategies or sales things was they would take something that was cool in pop culture and like make it Christian. And so, I don't know, like, so they'd be like the Nike swoosh and say like, just do it. And they'd be like, just let Jesus do it.
Like those. Yes.
And I was like, like it's so cheesy.
And there's a lot of Disney song remakes into Christian ones, and they're just most of the time they're very cringy. So, but I never thought about the Hallelujah one like that. I think because it's such a popular song, there's bound to be infinite versions of it.
Yeah. So
I don't know.
That's not. I don't have strong. I do not like the Happy Christmas Beatles one. Hallelujah. Yes. I'll probably actually leave it on and I'll sing along, but I won't be. I'll be like embarrassed as a Christian that this is so popular, even if I kind of like the words.
Oh, okay.
Another song I really like is The Grinch.
Like the original.
You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch.
Yeah.
There's even a couple years ago I heard a really kind of jazzy female vocalist-led version of it.
Yeah.
I love that one too.
It's a good,
In terms of like hymns, my standard favorite Christmas one, there's a lot I like, but Of the Father's Love Begotten.
Which is a debatable Christmas one.
What's the debate?
I
Is it about Christmas?
Oh,
what
no, I'm thinking of Little Mortal Flesh.
Oh yeah, that one's about communion.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was thinking.
And it's about Christmas too.
It is, but it's under the communion sect.
Yeah, it's under communion. I think it's under Lord's Supper. I think it should be under Christmas.
Yeah.
We actually did that as an Advent series.
Little More to Flesh.
Yeah, I think
I remember you saying that.
Right before you got here. Okay.
Well,
so there you go. This could be. We could fill an hour and a half of
just Christmas music.
Gosh, and maybe we'll come back to this.
Maybe.
As of the recording of this episode, there are 25 days till Christmas. All right.
That's actually appropriate. Yeah.
So I want to give a special word of welcome to our guest today. His name is Shane Welter. He is the Director of Worship and Arts.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's surprising to be in here. I can't believe what you've done to the place. This is incredible.
No, but we're talking about vocation and callings and jobs, and you've got a unique job.
Yeah.
I don't know how jobs break down percentage-wise. I suppose most jobs are relatively unique. I mean, there's so many jobs.
Yeah. But I think I would add, though, that ministry jobs are very unique in that, maybe not, but from my experience so far, and from what I see from other people, ministry jobs are just, you kind of do a bit of everything.
Within the job.
Okay. Yeah.
So how long have you been at this role?
I have been serving at St. Luke's for almost, over 2 years, almost 2.5-ish. I'll just say over 2 years.
Does it feel longer or shorter?
God, people ask that. It feels like either 10 years or 10 months.
Okay.
Like there's so much that has changed and happened since I've been here. So I started in September of 2020, and there was a lot that you could say happened that year, and there was a lot that happened 2 years after that, and so now I'm kind of coming out of what is normal now, and now I kind of am adapting to that, and so I think we've talked about, like, normally, like, if you've been working at a job for 2 years, you're finding your groove and routine and whatnot. I have none of that. Like,
you barely like unpacked in your office.
Yeah, it's so much that kept changing. So now I'm finally getting into starting a routine.
Okay.
So it's been an eventful 2 years. So I've been here for over 2 years, and a lot has happened.
Well, my perspective, at least as coworker, is it feels a lot longer in a good way. Like, I feel like we've been like partners and at this for a while. It's just like, I feel like we're in a good kind of rhythm of trust and ideas, and it feels very natural to be working together.
Yeah.
That's my perspective. Shane's shaking his head right now.
No,
I'm just kidding. All right. So, were you always going to be a worship director? No, you said you were going to be, you detasseled corn.
That's not what I wanted to be.
I know. I forgot. I already forgot.
I think I said video game designer.
Okay.
I think was one of them. I think I also looked into, I say when I looked, I was like in middle school,
right.
So not seriously, but I was very passionate about like zoology, animals, birds and insects.
Nice.
So,
oh yeah, entomologist. That's right.
Yeah, stuff like that. So I was like, I had interest in that in grade school, but no, I didn't really get into music until my senior year of high school.
Music in general.
In pretty much, I did choir, in like, I say grade school because in the Lutheran education system, it's all like 5 through, till you're an old person. But like in grade school, like in like 7th and 8th grade, I did like the choir there, and then when I went to high school, I did choir for that, and that was the extent of my music. Just choir. I didn't know how to read music. I didn't know what a sharp or a flat was until my senior year
of high school.
Okay. And then I started taking piano lessons. I started teaching myself guitar in senior year, partly because I started dating Lauren, my now wife at that time.
I was going to ask key influences. Lauren,
yes. Okay. She did everything.
Do a lot for a girl.
Yeah. And I'm very competitive. And I was like, well, she's doing everything. I got to at least learn something. And so that's kind of where I started picking up instruments and pushing myself a little more. But my biggest influence came from my teacher, my choir teacher. So he was a student teacher my junior year, and we kind of had an interim teacher that year, and he was a student teacher, and he blew the other teacher out of the water. It was kind of...
It's not a competition.
But if it was... He was really good. He just took command of the room. Like, wow. So senior year, we hired him, or the school hired him. Okay. So he was the full-time teacher my senior year. And that's all I needed. I was like... And he inspired me in music. Like, he opened my eyes to things I wanted to learn more about. And he showed me music in a sense where it was I was really passionate about it. I want to learn more. I want to go to school for this and learn more. At the time, I didn't know what, but I wanted something music, and it kind of was leaning towards music education because
that's what you experienced, right? That's what he was.
That's what I saw, really. So it was just music education, and I was also looking at Concordia, Nebraska, Concordia Seward, and Concordia Irvine. I went back and forth. Long story short, I chose Irvine.
That's a great story, by the way, offline for some of the details.
It is a story for a later date, but I ended up choosing Irvine for my school, and I chose education because I didn't know what else to do with music, because it's that's all I saw in Wisconsin. I'm like, well, you're going to be a teacher, and that's about it. Yeah. But I did have some experience of a worship leader of the contemporary version of that from a church in the area I lived in.
Back in Wisconsin, high school?
Back in Wisconsin, who was also a teacher to me, and kind of a role model in that sense. We had a worship leading class, I guess, in
your
high
church?
School. It's not a class, I guess. We had chapel. Sorry, my high school.
Oh, Lutheran High School.
Sorry, Lutheran High School.
Yep.
Small school. We had chapel, and there was a class for for the kids to practice the music right before chapel, and then we bring it for chapel and counts as a music credit and whatnot.
That's cool.
And so I did that, and that's kind of partly where Lauren and I met too. But I didn't learn much in that. Well, I learned stuff in worship planning in that. Why should we choose this song? And his name is Doug Radaman. He's worship leader in West Bend, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Still doing great work, still super supportive of Lauren and I.
Cool.
But he kind of like opened my eyes to like, it's more than just picking good songs. So he kind of showed me that realm of it. And then my other teacher, when he came senior year,
You want to give his name or something embarrassing?
No.
Say?
His name is Mr. Cody, Robert Cody.
Okay.
But he sometimes goes by Bobby Cody.
Okay. Way to go, Mr. Cody. I'm indebted to your faithful serving in your vocation.
Yeah. So those are, both of them were very influential for me. But nonetheless, I saw that glimpse of worship leader, but I didn't know I could make a career out of it per se. So I was education for a while, and after like one education class, I was like, I don't want to teach.
Terrible.
So like,
Kids are mean.
I didn't even do any visitation or anything. I just was in the class, and I was like,
No.
I don't think I want to teach, but I enjoy being up front, and so I knew that right away, and so ended up, I guess, just transitioning over to like church music, DP, or like that kind of
Director of
parish music stuff. But mainly, by the time I graduated college, I was a music major with a triple emphasis in church music, vocal performance, and commercial music.
A triple major?
Triple emphasis.
Okay.
It was,
Triple
but
emphasis.
the credit load was about a double major. It's funny. Quick story tangent. I was busy in college. Most musicians are, but for reference scale, on average, I took about 20, 21 credits a semester, and 3 or 4 of those credits were zeros.
What do you mean zeros?
So music kids, sometimes their credits got in the way. So like sometimes your ensemble has to count as a credit because you need electives and whatnot.
Right.
Musicians did so much, they just were like, well, you can't drop a class and you're on scholarship for a lot of things. So you just had to zero credit.
And you couldn't, I experienced that where you couldn't take, well, for me, zero credit wasn't an option for certain things.
They made it an option when I came in like sophomore year.
So I wanted to take Latin, and it was going to be a 5-credit class, but it was my senior year, and I already had the right amount of credits to graduate. And I would have had to pay out of pocket per credit hour that it would go over. And I forgot what it was. It was hundreds of dollars per credit hour. And it's like, I can't do that. Yeah. And so I had all these high school like dual enrollment credits that transferred in. So I was like, I started a semester ahead. But then it backfired because it cost me a semester worth of classes I wanted to take. I'm like, man, I actually want to take these other things, but I can't afford to pay out of pocket for it. So I'm glad they fixed it for you.
They did. Well, I'd say roughly fixed. Right. Like life was, you wake up, class, it's night, and then you do that every day. There wasn't a lot of free time.
So I imagine you said your triple emphases. You said church music, vocal performance, and
commercial music, is a I trying to think of a good way to describe it, but commercial music is like the stuff you hear on the radio, or it's the music you hear on TV. It's the music you hear in modern day. I don't know, for selling purposes, for business purposes, for et cetera. So it's a broad umbrella of like learning modern music theory, learning how to mix and master music on softwares, and learning how to arrange, et cetera. It was just a broad kind of category of everything.
That makes sense. And I feel like I have a good sense of what vocal performance is.
Yes.
So what is church music?
So church music, so I went to Concordia University, Irvine, which is part of the LCMS, Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod branch, and one of the schools associated with the Synod. And so I guess with that, it's a lot of classes for the history of music in church, the purpose of music in church, the kind of the fundamentals of music in church, and then with that, like hymnody, like it's a class purely just on hymns, studying hymns, and
like the words of them, or the
words, the music, the meter, the rhymes, the lyricism. Like the authors, the arrangers, the kind of the purpose of why was this hymn written? Who wrote the hymn? And and just really just diving into the history of it, but also just diving into the Lutheran service book, the Maroon Hymnal in the pews, and using that for most of like our kind of guide.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
One of the things you dropped in there was the purpose of music in church.
Yeah.
Like, you're not writing a paper right now, but could you give me like an off the cuff, regardless of whatever the content of the class was, as you think about it today? Maybe it's not a polished answer here, but some of our listeners go to a church, some of our listeners go to this church. As a worship director who has some training, what do you see as the purpose of music in church, and what do you maybe wish other people would say? You know what? Regardless of what people think worship music is or music is for, if you had a 20, 30, 40-year career here, and by the end people were like, we're a congregation where this is what music is doing in our church.
Yeah.
What would that be?
Yeah. I think I'm going to give kind of a generic answer, and I might expand upon it a little. I think the purpose of music in church is to offer praise to our God to the best of our abilities. Because music itself, you could go a little deeper, like what is music? But like music itself is this fascinating art that we've I don't want to say mastered, but like it's so cool what we've done with sound and how we've arranged it and structured everything to it. And I mean, we look in the Bible, music is part of history.
Yeah.
And like using voices, using instruments just to make sounds, and music has been around forever. And like they used it, like the Old Testament, they used it as just a form of expression of just celebration. And I think a lot of that ties into worship. And like what we have to offer to God is ourselves and who we are, and our praise to Him. And so how can we give Him our praise? Well, I think music is one of the easiest ways to do that, is because a lot of the music we sing in church is written as praise. It can be informative. It can be like just praise, like, God, you are great. Or it could be kind of educational, like Jesus was this guy, like in song form, Jesus was a guy who...
So teaching.
It could be teaching, it could be praise, it could be reflecting. There's a lot of I think different kinds of music, but I don't want to dwell on that. But like the purpose of music, I think it's just, and it's bare bones, simplest, just off the cuff of my head, I think it's just praise. Praising God. And you can use it for other things in church. I think kind of when it comes down to it, I think one of the most important pieces of music in church is praise.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Old Testament music before. One of my first thoughts was, I think it's really cool that they take like a dead animal part, and that's a good instrument. Like, here's a ram's horn, like trumpet, cool. Like
the shofar.
Yeah.
Yes. The shofar and timbrel.
Lyre shows up a lot. What is a L-Y-R-E? Do you know?
Lyre.
How would you describe what a lyre is?
I'm a little rusty, and I might be getting it mixed up with a lute, but I think lyre is just kind of like a mini harp. Okay. It's a stringed instrument.
Okay. Guitar, like a primitive guitar almost?
Not even.
No?
More harp than guitar. Because guitar can...
So lute? Is that more...
Lute is like medieval guitar.
All right.
That's the one that used like... You see the jester playing. I don't know. That's what I think of with the lute.
That's good.
But lyre, you think of like King David kind of stuff, like mini harp.
Okay.
I think I could be wrong.
No, you're good. Comment below if you know what a lyre is. L-Y-R-E.
Lyre.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No.
You said a number of things that just prompted all these little side quests in my brain.
I do that. Sorry.
No, it's good. You're talking about kind of singing or music as this thing that we can create. We haven't quite mastered, but it's an offering to God. one of the words that came to my mind immediately was embodied. That music in general, but I think singing in particular, is this very, for me anyway. I don't have any formal training, and some days I feel like I sing great, and other days it's like that didn't sound at all like it was supposed to, and it's kind of a crapshoot of which one you're going to get. Yeah. That's just life. But it's this fully embodied experience, in that my emotions are involved, my breathing is involved, my heart rate is going with it. I'm using my vocal cords. I might be listening to other people. I mean, hopefully I'm at least trying to sound where other people are a little bit. Yeah. It's emotional.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of different facets of music to appreciate, and like you can listen to it and just be in awe of God's creation in like the fact music exists. Like, this is so cool. Like, God, you are amazing. Yeah. Or you can use it as like, we don't really shout a lot in church. Like in our tradition, we don't express emotion. I say charismatically, but I mean like emotionally, like
energetically even.
Yeah, like we're not like in unison. I don't know how to describe it well, but like we're not like, yes, praise God, like at the top of our lungs in church. We don't really do that in our tradition culture, but we sing. And what you're saying in the full body form of worship, it's a way to express that emotion. Like when we're singing high, when we're singing loud, and we're singing long, that's true. It's very similar to this, but it's more normal to do that.
It's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. You know, I will shout and lose my voice at a hockey game. Yeah. Like if a fight breaks out, like I'm shouting even louder. Like, and yet, you know, even if a song or a scripture is like, make a joyful shout to the Lord. Woo. Like, I might, to God. That's not my thing. But if we're singing a Easter hymn of hallelujah, 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 like I'm going to give that some gusto. Yeah. So that's probably, especially the big songs, is where I'm going to put my breath behind it in a really powerful way.
Yeah, which kind of leads me to like another segue in some sorts of like, some songs are written like too high, and they're just like, and sometimes songs aren't written well. That happens. Yeah. But sometimes songs are written high on purpose, and sometimes I don't get like really fully annoyed, but sometimes I get a little annoyed when people are like, it's too high. Like, one, I know the average range of a human, trust me, like music-wise. It is high, but that's intentional. Like, it's intentionally high. Like, not...
Why would it be intentionally high?
So, stuff can be written like highly written for music, and like it sounds better. Or it could be written high because it's more expressive. Like, sometimes when we're... Like when you get excited at a hockey game, you raise your voice. Literally, you're not going to say, "Woo, yeah, good job." You're going to say, "Yeah, good job." That's the same thing in music. It expresses that emotion. And so, like when something's written high, like it's part of the expression of the form. It's what's written in the song. And so, like, yes, it's high on purpose. Try it. Try singing. Like,
we as a family last night, we've been kind of experiencing how we do like devotions or prayer time, things like that. Yeah. And so my youngest really wanted to do this more like formal service out of the hymnal, which was like super fun. But in the thing it said like it called for like a hymn may be sung here. And so I said, what do we want to sing? And he said, well, I know the first verse of Away in a Manger. So we sang that a cappella, and I picked way too low. I started, and then the rest of the family, I've got two prepubescent boys, a wife, and a daughter, and so it just became a solo. Like they just dropped out, and I was just like, it was a reach for me to get that low, and I was like, they were all just like crossing their arms and shaking their heads like, you're an idiot, Dad. We love you, but like this was a total failure. You don't get to start the song anymore.
That's amazing. It is a pet peeve of mine though when some people are like, let's sing a song, and then some Joe Schmo chooses the key. I'm like, no,
you've doomed us. You've doomed us. There's no recovering from this.
That was one of my pet peeves for choir. Sometimes our tradition in high school, we'd sing the doxology after, like praise God. One time our choir director wasn't there, and I was like, oh, I know the key, like off my head. I don't have perfect pitch, but I've got a relatively good ear. I'm like, And I was like, oh, I'll do it. And then somebody just started it out of the blue. I'm like, no. And we were like, it was just terrible.
So that was my contribution last night.
Yeah.
Another side quest, as you were talking earlier, hymn writing.
Yeah.
I thought of the word congregational, and that I think this is so. Here at St. Luke's, we have 2 different services, very different styles, and I think there's old music that is terrible and unsingable, and there's new music that is very singable and very communal. But I think there often is a difference that much music today, even going like with your commercial music category, a lot of music today seems to be written for the radio and performance, and it's so good then congregations will want to sing it. And there's a number of older hymns in particular that were written for communal singing. That was their only purpose ever, was we want a bunch of people, probably even in parts, to sing this.
Which is people, I say people, but I'm trying to think of a good way to word this, but there are, we've kind of the church in general is categorized like 2 forms of worship,
right.
Traditional, old, and contemporary, new.
Yeah.
But there can be good and bad in all of it. And I like,
for sure.
I've written a lot of papers on the worship wars. Right. This is what some people call it, like the new versus old, which is better. Like long story short, it's all it's forms of praise. Yeah. And when people say like that any kind of music is like satanic or demonic, is first of all a heresy. You remember the rapper Flame? He's a Christian rapper, Lutheran rapper, and he's incredible, super smart. I love his work. But I was on a Zoom call with him one time, and like that question comes like, when people say like music from the devil, he's like, that's a heresy. Like you're a heretic because the devil can't create anything. He only manipulates.
Interesting.
And so don't call the things that God has created like it was a very interesting thing like that. But like in that same vein, praise is praise, and if you can offer that as praise in what you give to God, that's kind of what it is. And so in these 2 forms of worship, the traditional and contemporary, like both are good. And sorry, I'm reeling myself back in here. That's all right. The organ itself is interesting because people see it as like this archaic instrument, which it's old. Like it's old, but it's also one of, I won't go down, but it's a really cool. It's one of the coolest instruments and one of the most difficult instruments you can master. But what did people do before the organ?
Right,
like they just sung. Like that's what you just sung, and like
a harpsichord.
Like they had that, but like not too often they were accompanying with that.
Yeah,
and so
people didn't have that in their homes. So.
No, so people just sung, and so the organ came and in some sense might have been the start of like contemporary music, and that like there was accompaniment, and it was it was leading people, but it also had the draw of drowning out voices, which happens with any accompaniment now. So like, but that's what we're used to, which I think it's always good to remind people of. Singing a cappella is such a valuable form, because it doesn't matter where you are, what situation you're in, you can sing anytime in any place, which Happy Birthday is a good example of that. Yeah. Which
people also pick terrible keys, and then
people pick several keys for Happy Birthday.
Or I think about going to a baseball game, they'll do Sweet Caroline, and they'll drop out, and or at St. Louis Blues games during the third period, they will often play Take Me Home Country Roads, and then they'll play it during the commercial break, and then when the game starts, they'll drop out the audio, but the crowd keeps singing. And almost every time when it's just the voices, the announcers are like, listen to this.
Yeah.
Which they don't comment when they're singing with the accompaniment or the track or the actual professional music, but there's something about the voices by themselves that it's so expressive and beautiful. It's
a beautiful thing when voices are in tandem together. I think it's probably symbolic and also like literal that like we're together in this. Yeah. Like
So let me make it more concrete here. We've been talking worship a little more abstractly, but the goal today is not worship. It's the vocation of worship director, worship leader.
Oops. Yeah, not on the main topic.
That's all right. So let me say it like this, Shane. I get to see you in your office sometimes, but most even people here at St. Luke's only see you for an hour on a Sunday morning. What do you do during the week?
Yeah.
Like, what is it you actually do here?
I like to say a bit of everything.
Okay.
So
like, give us give me like a running list, like including but not limited to. What are some of the things you spend your actual time doing?
All right. Including, I'll just kind of shotgun a lot of random things. I plan the services. I plan the slides for it, and with some help, create those slides. Pick what verses, pick what arrangements of songs we're doing, lead those arrangements with the band, teach them to the band, lead the choir, lead handbells, some other stuff.
Well, even just leading handbells. What are you doing later tonight?
We're doing tonight a few hours. We've got a handbell polishing party.
Yay!
But it's not fun. To make something out of it. But so like
maintaining the instruments,
maintaining instruments, kind of making sure the facility, like the worship space is good, setting up for that, tearing down.
When you say set up and tear down, what does that mean? Because I don't think people don't see what you do.
That's true. Yes. So like the altar is not glued to the floor, or it's not cemented in. That thing can roll around anywhere, and sometimes people need the space for different things. And so depending on where the altar will go, for some reason, there's thought that goes into, it should be a little further. No, it should be a little further back, or whatnot. And the candles next to him, should there be whatnot? But also set up for the band, because the band is just to the right of kind of the front area. But like setting up for that, there's so many different wiring and instrument and other things to do for that. But all of that. There's a lot of other stuff. I'm just kind of blanking on.
Yeah, I know. We spend time kind of debriefing every week of looking back to say, all right, what can we sharpen? What can we celebrate from that? What's coming up ahead?
Yeah. But like reviewing the previous week and then kind of looking forward for that. And now coming up, there's, the Sunday services, and then soon there'll be the midweek Wednesday services as well. Yeah. And then Christmas right after that.
So there are physical tasks like polishing handbells, plugging in things, chasing gremlins out of the system to make sure that sound stuff all works.
Yeah.
But in terms of the mental side, what do you spend time thinking about? What takes your like focus?
I think it's very draining. Might sound like the bad word, but it's very mentally draining, because it's a very provocative kind of thought-provoking, creative energy job, especially in planning services, because there needs to be some routine in services to, one, make it easier for other reasons, but like routine in that. But what's the most effective way I can have this service convey the message, be worshipful, but also include sacramental elements, confession, absolution, and communion, and baptism if there is one, and all these other kind of different elements, incorporating them into a worship that flows and makes sense, and that people are able to gain something out of, but also give as well. So, and then each week, it's as daunting as it sounds planning for that. So like, I think there's a part of it that it also is like, there's no such thing as perfection, and planning the services, I'm as human as anyone else, and it's not going to be perfect, but I'm going to do what I think is right for the Church of St. Luke's in the setting.
So I love all the things you're saying. I want to spend 4 hours looking at this. So from an outsider point of view, somebody could see a worship leader and think, oh, he sings good, he's a worship leader.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's part of performing and leading worship, but what you just described, if I could kind of say it back to active listening, is things like How are we intentionally forming people through worship, that recognizing that repetition is part of that, but also newness and creativity helps engagement. And those are opposite things that are both good. And so navigating that, how are people participating, right key, right arrangement, is this allowing them to express themselves, but also how is it informing them, teaching them, shaping them within a given song, within where are we in the service? Is energy, emotions, head space, heart space different before confession and absolution compared to after, right? Before a baptism compared to after, the hymn of the day right before the sermon compared to it's the final moment, and what are we leaving people with? Like, there's a lot of moving parts and variables and thought in all of that,
and that's not even including like how are we going to make it happen.
That's just the thinking about it.
That's just the thinking about it. Now, actually implementing it, getting all the moving pieces, and when I say moving pieces, I mean the physical elements and whatnot, like the slides and the sound, but also the people as well involved, and letting them know
this song needs a drummer. We don't have one this weekend, or the bass line carries this song, but I only have keys, drums, and guitar. Yeah, and so balancing personnel with arrangement.
And so there's so much that just to go into the music side of it, and like, I mean, planning the people and coordinating the people and planning the music for those people. I like to think I want to know I want to know people well, and like the musicians and vocalists and everyone who serves here, I want to get to know them so I can help them to the best they can. So when I pick songs, I really do try to pick in the best way that they can exceed, so that the church itself can succeed. Because what I was saying before, like offering our best in praise and worship, I want each of the volunteers to offer their best, and I want to help them do that. And so I probably spend way too much time kind of thinking about each person and how they could succeed best and how that meshes with everything else. Yeah. Sorry, what you said made me think of that.
So I just jotted down some of the things that are part of your job that I've heard. So theology, understanding, in this case, scripture, what are we believe? What do we want to help people believe? There's a bit of education of how are we teaching through worship, as well as helping people express it. You have to know technology to be able to plug in the things and to mix them and make it sound good,
especially in the modern setting.
There's a performance component to your job where you and I think different worship directors maybe just perform and others maybe just plan, but your role, you're doing both. That you're playing primarily guitar and singing
primarily, and I've been trying to I've been kind of doing both too. Some Sundays I play guitar while singing. Some Sundays I don't play guitar while singing, because I want the congregation to see that like it's not me.
It's not the Shane Welter show.
This
is though.
I guess for right now. But I mean, like I'm just helping this worship be the best this church can offer to God, and I part of me not playing. I also want to raise leaders. That's a big one. I haven't touched on, but I want to raise leaders. I want people to understand the role of a leader in leading a church, and people are up front. They see you. What does that mean? And et cetera. But me not playing guitar, I want people to see I'm just using my voice just like the congregation. This is
just one of the family here.
Just singing along with you.
Yes. So there's theology, there's education, there's technology, there's performance. You're also helping other people perform at their best. Yeah. In a way that's communicating all the right things. There's logistics of scheduling and arranging and printing and making sure the music's there in the right key.
Yes.
You're working with a team, both paid staff and primarily volunteers.
Yes. So, I mean, we've got the team, you and all the other staff we have in the office, but then also the many other mini teams that are like the tech people, the worship people, the choir people, the bell people.
And I was just all the other kind of teams.
Oh, sorry, is that as well?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're working and with me and the other staff we're collaboratively planning, and so certain things are very much on a table together. We're figuring out, or on a whiteboard. Other things are you got to go figure it out.
Yeah.
So there's that balance of what are you doing, what are we doing, and then everything I just said in terms of guitar or singing performance is sort of duplicated with each musical group you're working with.
Yeah. It's duplicated, but not similar enough to make it easy.
Leading a handbell choir has certain similarities to leading a band in that there's people and music.
Yep. And that's about where it stops.
And it will be performed or led in church. You also work with chapel during the week?
That's kind of a new-ish one, but I feel like it's fitting to, like, we want to connect to the school and the school childcare and to the church and connect everything. And I feel like me leading the kids in song for that is just part of the way to connect everything together while teaching kids music.
And if one other layer in all of this mess, one of my comments to Shane, as well as most of our staff, is let me be your boss.
Yeah.
Because if we have a congregation of 300 people, turns out different people have different preferences for music.
Oh yeah, who'd have thought?
Yeah, crazy. So if you have 300 people gathering for a weekend, there are 300 very different opinions about music.
Yes. Yeah.
Too loud, too soft, too big, too small, too old, too new. Like I imagine you hear it, or like, why don't we do what we used to do? Why do we always have to do what we used to do?
Yeah. And all of the opinions at once, and all of them contradicting each other, kind of thing.
So you could almost, politician isn't the right word, but in a sense, you're working with a whole congregation of people that you want to be happy. You care about our people.
Yeah.
Theologian, educator, technician, performer, logistics guy, team coordinator, politician. I mean, I don't know what the right word for that is, but you're trying to manage people's expectations and create peace and hear feedback, because you want to get better, and there is real feedback.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I see it most of the time when I get feedback. It's very just the human part of it. It's just the relationship part of it. And so I value feedback. I prefer not to hear negative feedback.
It hurts. It's not comfortable.
Especially if there's some emotion behind it. But I appreciate when people take the time to tell me something, because this is important to you, and I value that.
Yeah. I'll speak for myself for a second and ask if that's similar for you. I think the hardest, or maybe most unhelpful feedback for me, is when there seems to be an assumption that I haven't thought about it.
Yeah.
Like if I forgot to turn my mic on, and that's just a mistake, and say, hey, pastor, that was distracting, when, make sure you turn your mic on. That's helpful. Or if the slide was wrong, I can say, Shane, fix the slide. That didn't go well. Or, hey, your band member wasn't up there on time. Make sure they're back on time. Like, those kind of objective ones feel easier to me. But if it's like, why do we do this? Or, you're dumb or wrong, or
I didn't like that. Okay.
Yeah. Like an assumption that you're either trying to ruin it or you hadn't actually thought about it. Is that, I don't know, do you feel that way? That hurts the most, when there's an assumption that I haven't thought about it. Because reality is I make bad decisions, but I've actually probably thought about it more than the average person.
Yeah.
And I really care.
Yeah. And I don't think I think about it the same way that you do, and that that kind of like how you're describing it. I try to think when I hear kind of like that criticism, kind of first thing that comes to mind is that like, yeah, they're not getting it. They're not seeing it from my point of view, but also like, I'm not, again, I'm not trying to say it's about me, but I'm doing this the best I can. And more than anything, I want people to just see that like, I'm human as you are. And I've put so much time into everything that you've seeing and critiquing. Like, and there was so much thought that went into this. And like you've told me, like, let's have a conversation about it. If you have the time and you've got a date, then seriously, let's talk about it.
So you want them to respect or maybe have an appreciation or understanding of your point of view, and you're trying to do the same for them. Mm-hmm. And yet in that moment, that other person might not be as sensitive to the fact that there are 300 other points of view. And you're the one who's going to be bombarded with all the points of view. Yeah. And every other person they have theirs, and that's good and valid and true and can be helpful. Mm-hmm. But not every person with their perspective feels the burden of everyone else's perspective in the same way that you probably do. Yeah.
I will say, above and through, this Church of St. Luke's is incredibly supportive to me and just all the ministry. And so I don't want to make it sound like this. No. I regularly hear criticisms and whatnot. Most of the time people are very thankful and appreciative, and I value that. And
I think what we're saying, Shane, applies to most professions.
Oh, absolutely.
And so on the one hand, I also want to advocate for other worship leaders out there. If you're a part of a church or a religious group and you've got somebody doing the comparable to work what we've described Shane as today, hopefully this is giving an appreciation that this person probably does tons that you don't see. They're probably many are getting paid. At the same time, it might still be hard work. Yeah. Just because you don't see it, it might still be really important. Mm-hmm. They're also a person, which is, I think, hopefully true of all of our vocations, that remember, this is a person who probably cares and is probably not trying to sabotage things or ruin it or make your life miserable. Mm-hmm. And they might, whether we're talking about the grocery store clerk or the administrator in the school, whatever the vocation you're bumping into that might be frustrating you, chances are that other person has thought about this a lot too. Mm-hmm. Like they probably care, and they might have a reason for how they came to this decision.
Yeah. Just don't assume they don't care about what they're doing. Yeah. But
I think that goes a long way to say this person cares and they're probably trying. Yeah, like if we can just acknowledge those up front, I think that will probably save a lot of interpersonal grief.
Yeah. And maybe that's why I might be fit for this job, because I might be too empathetic for all things. So when like people say like, "Oh, I can't make it to this today" or whatever, I think I'm too sympathetic, empathetic. I can't think of the right word, but like, just like I get it. Like, you're human. I know you're not trying to abuse me or what is happening at St. Luke's. Like you're genuinely sick. Stay home. Like, I know you're not just like. I trust you as a human. Yeah. Like, you're not lying to me. Like,
it's not like you're off the team.
Yeah,
you're dead to me. Don't show up at rehearsal next week.
Yeah, but that just you saying all that just makes me think of like I'm too empathetic in life in general. When like somebody cuts me off on the road, I'm like, they're probably late for something. I'm just too forgiving.
I think putting the best construction on things is really good.
It is.
It changes your attitude. You'll probably be more gracious towards them. My tip with driving, by the way. This is
hit him.
This is off topic a little bit. Is I remember a few years ago I was driving with my grandparents and they were driving a bit slow, and I noticed there were cars behind us that weren't appreciative of the speed. Mm-hmm. But you know what? My grandpa was doing his best, and he was getting us there safely, and he was taking care of his bride, and it was beautiful. Mm-hmm. And so now when I'm behind somebody who's slow, I try to say, you know what? That might be somebody's grandpa. And if this was my grandpa, how would I want the person behind them to be driving? Mm-hmm. Just a little do unto others. Goes a long way of like, hey, that's a person. And they probably are trying and they probably care.
They probably have a lot happening in their life.
Yeah. And I probably wouldn't want their problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shane, I don't want your problems, by the way. I appreciate what you do.
Oh, thanks. No, I don't want your problems either.
As we near the end here, Shane, is there anything you would want? See, you're so gracious here. I think you're worried that people at St. Luke's are going to feel defensive, or you're being defensive. So let me reframe the conversation. Let's say you have a classmate or a colleague at another church. Mm-hmm. What do you want that person's congregation community to know about who they are or what they're trying to do as a worship leader?
All right, I'm gonna envision somebody in their church.
Like what can they not say for themselves? But if you were like a consultation coming in for the weekend, and you could say, "Hey, Lutheran Church of St. Paul in Wrath of God, Nebraska, I want you to know that or this person would never say it to you, but
yes.
This is what they're trying to do, and this is how you can support them."
For your local church worship planner, director, whatever it may be, just know for them, as we were saying, there's a lot of work that goes into the planning and everything. And if it doesn't strike your fancy, the worship seems awkward, weird, not what you're used to, it probably is too, because there's infinite ways to worship, and there's infinite preferences that people have, and that's not what church is. It's not your preference and what you like the best. The church is the people. I still want to do that song one day. I am the church. You are the church. We are the church together. But
there's beautiful truth there.
It very much is like the church is the people under God, and it's a congregation. I don't know.
As you're describing that, it made me think of, it sounds cliche, but there's something to say for it. We're a family of faith.
Yes.
And quite regularly at my household, in our physical earthly family, we will prepare a meal, and at least one person at the table, that will not be their favorite dish. Mm-hmm. There's only 5 of us, and we have 3 meals a day. So do the math. But every single day, every single meal, at least 20% of the table is not ecstatic about the whole course. Mm-hmm. And so you multiply that over a congregation, and so
and so with that, for congregations, for their local worship director, appreciate worship. Stuff like mistakes will happen. Slides won't move. Lyrics are gonna maybe be weird or off-putting, maybe not doctrinal. I don't know. But whatever happens, appreciate worship for what it is, with all the different forms, with all the different nuances. Dig into the text of things. Dig into the words. Just appreciate worship for what it is. COVID has definitely opened my eyes to that a little more. And when we couldn't sing for worship, appreciate all the little things in worship and offer it to God as a blessing.
Yeah. Cool. Shane, you're a blessing to me. You're a blessing to this congregation.
Oh, thanks. You too.
Oh, thanks, Shane. This candy corn is not going to eat itself, by the way. We are going to be eating candy corn on the air.
The trash can eat candy corn pretty well.
At least Easter is my guess. No, Shane, don't say that kind of thing. All right. Dear viewer and listener, thanks for taking time. Thanks for being part of the conversation. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you have a appreciation for this very specific vocation, but it's a beautiful vocation. As we regularly say, the goal is to continue the conversation. So hopefully something today has prompted a thought. Also, we don't ever push too hard on leave a review. But at the same time, I want to ask today, if you'd consider taking 90 seconds, literally take 90 seconds, wherever you're listening to this, click the star or leave a review. And I'm not even asking for like an endorsement. Don't tell people we're the best. Could you just leave like a 1-sentence or 3-sentence thing about what can somebody expect? If somebody was going to listen to the show, what can they expect? You don't have to love it or say anything you don't mean or believe. But would you take 90 seconds as soon as I shut up here and click the star or the review and say, hey, this is a podcast about, and or I've listened to one episode and here's what I got, or I've listened to 10 episodes and here's what I think. Just give your opinion about what can somebody expect, and maybe that will help someone else be part of the conversation.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
That'd be awesome. All right. Until next time, thank you to our special guest today, Shane.
Ooh.
Shane, was it right? Shane?
Yeah. I don't know.
Thank you, Shane, for being here. Thanks for doing what you do. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being part of the conversation. We'll catch you next time.
That's the end of the episode, but we want to continue the conversation. Continue the conversation by sharing this episode, subscribing, or leaving a review. Connect with us on Instagram at 2414podcast. Connect with us through email at 2414@stlukes-church.com. Or best of all, keep the conversation going by inviting someone to process with you so that you can each walk away with more understanding that leads to more conversation as the journey continues. If you happen to be in the Seattle-Tacoma area of Washington, stop by on a Sunday morning and say hi. 2414 is a podcast produced by St. Luke's Lutheran Church in Federal Way, Washington. To find more content, discover upcoming opportunities to connect in person, or to support the show, head on over to stlukes-church.com. Thanks for walking with us.